Hello there. What is going on, everybody? We're doing a community chat today, and joining me is Danny, aka Clever Clanker, aka Uchidan from the Discord. And Danny is basically a really talented community creator who recently actually did some work and helped me out on the Legion AI product. How you doing, Danny?
Good, good. How are you? Doing the best I can during the pandemic and stuff. So
absolutely, it's been an interesting time, I'd say, and it's been a big time for people to start working on projects. And I thank you for coming out and hanging out with me today and talking about Legion and all kinds of things. I have a lot of questions that I'd like to ask you about. But for people who aren't familiar with your work, I know you've done a lot of community expansions, like the Tusken Raiders, for example. Tell us about what you do and and where people can find your work.
Alrighty. Well, I guess it kind of started when me and my friends got into Legion right before, it was around August time. And the 800-point games were just kind of lasting a little too long for us as new players, because as you're learning all the mechanics and stuff like that, it takes a long time. So we stumbled across the Imperial Discipline 500-point game, and it was community content. I was like, this is so cool. So I kind of would always see on the Facebook page, like, people saying, like, oh, Tusken Raiders would be really cool, or Rancors or Jawas would be really cool if they were like neutral units. And I was like, I can do that. I can make that. So that became like my little project. I photoshopped some Legion cards. I tried to make it look as professional as I could, and
they look great too. They look.
Oh, thank you.
I've had. I think was the Tuskens the first thing that you did.
Tuskens was the first thing I did.
I think they've been out the longest. I think I remember seeing them on the Legion Facebook group, and initially thinking, whoa, was this a new article? Was this a new product drop that they somebody ninja leaked into Facebook? And I've had a lot of other people ask that as well. And so because I have a lot of Legion people that follow, and I get a lot of emails, and I've had more than a few emails. I'm like, hey, how come you haven't done a video on this expansion? And by the way, where's FFG's article on it? I can't find it anywhere. And so yeah, so for you guys watching at home, this is not official. I have some images going on over here too.
Yeah.
This is not official product, even though it looks really official.
Yeah, I'm waiting for FFG to come after me soon enough. But for now,
they might come after you with like a high five or with some legal papers. Yeah, you never know.
The mouse will come for me. So.
Yeah, exactly. So a question about you've got some mock-ups here of some I see I'm looking at the Tusken Raider expansion right now. You've got like miniatures there too. As those just like did you borrow those from Imperial Assault or?
So when I first made it, Imperial Assault was the minis that we used. Still the Bantha, I would suggest using the Imperial Assault Bantha, or you can get the Wizard of the Coast one. But Skullforge Miniatures does a great Tusken Raider.
That was one of the things I was going to ask about too, because Skullforge has some really amazing stuff. I haven't actually ordered anything from Skullforge yet, but I think I may at some point.
You got to get locked. You got to get locked dirt. You got to get locked dirt from him.
Oh, I don't even have my tank yet.
That's true.
I don't buy anything until I get the actual tank in hand first, because I want to see with my own eyes what's in there. I don't trust the other unboxings that have shown up. I only trust my own. And for you guys listening at home, don't trust anybody else. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, like that was one of those things. Like, I thought for sure, like, we were gonna get Aayla Secura and Plo Koon little busts in the Republic tank, and we didn't. And so that's certainly on my list of things, because I don't like to buy minis very often. I've done it a little bit. I've done it once in a while. There's actually one of me on Mel Miniatures shop with nunchucks, and I think it's great. But so I bought a couple of those because I'm vain. But because I broke one, so I had to buy another one. But yeah, I don't like to buy that stuff, because I'm always thinking, because I did this for Rebels, right? Like, when Rebels came out, I bought like the whole Ghost crew. It was awesome. I was just like, yeah, I painted them all up. And then they announced Sabine, and I'm like, oh, they're actually gonna make these. Part of me is like, did I waste my money? Because it's not really a waste anyway. But yeah, like, there's a little part of me that's just like, oh, so I want to do stuff like I know they're not gonna do. And if they release the tank with no bust in there, I feel like it's pretty safe to say they're not going to release that. So that one's a safe bet. Yeah.
I would agree. I would agree. Yeah, and like the alien heads for the rebels, you could just cut off all your rebels' heads and just put the alien heads on them because
Yeah.
universal.
I did that with Spaceballs for the Imperials. I bought an extra unit of stormtroopers and I cut the heads off. But I did it before I had the right tools, and I just like used wire cutters, and it squeezed the soft plastic. So now their necks, if you look real close, their necks are all like really hideously deformed. So I don't really show those off very much because if you look close, you're like, what did you do? This is an abomination. So, it's funny, like the process. But how long have you been playing Legion, by the way?
August is when we got into it. So August of the past year.
Okay.
So yeah, it'll be a year this August coming up.
Was this your first minis game, or did you have a background in minis game already?
So this was it was like a thing that we always kind of wanted to get into, me and my friends, but we never were like War Machine's cool, 40K is cool, but like we have no connection to the characters, to the models. Like, so it's kind of like, oh, they just look cool. And then when I saw Legion, I was like, oh, this is it. So. Yeah,
I think that's what they were hoping to do. They were hoping to capture that war gamer who wanted, that aspect of their childhood or something. And because Star Wars has been around for so long, old dudes like me have, grown up with the original trilogy, and then younger people have maybe grown up with the prequels, and then 15, 20 years from now, you're going to have a whole generation of young adults coming out with disposable income of their own that grew up with Rey and Finn and Poe and Kylo Ren. And so, I have a feeling by the time that rolls around, culture will look back at the sequel trilogy with a much kinder eyes, and we'll probably see a lot more people like a resurgence again.
Kind of like the prequels. Like the prequels were universally hated, and now the memes came out and everybody loves them.
I'm glad you brought that up. I think the memes were the number one thing about the prequels. Because I'll say this. When watching the prequels in the theater, thinking it's the last Star Wars you're ever going to get, I remember feeling overjoyed. Especially as there's a lot of things that were objectively great about the prequels, like the first 20 minutes of The Phantom Menace when Liam Neeson's like force pushing stuff and like being super badass. Like everybody loved that. It wasn't until Jar Jar Binks showed up that negative opinions in the movie really started to kind of rise. And so I remember looking back and thinking, there was great moments, and I had a blast watching that movie. Same thing for Episode 2. You saw Yoda with a lightsaber, loved it. Episode 3 had a lot of action, awesome space battle, and things that even get better with time, and you look back and you say, what about this Wookiee battle? Awesome. So, but yeah, and then not long after each one of them, I think I joined the hater community a little bit, and at least making jokes.
Because you think about it, you start to break it down and you're like, oh, wait, yeah. So.
No, exactly. And it's funny the way time has kind of healed it, because you grow differently and you start to develop nostalgia on certain things. And then nostalgia is like a powerful drug, because it makes you forget the things you hated and only remember the things that you loved. And so we can now look at the memes have helped out so much, because there's so much greatness there. And I think the Clone Wars really helped out.
Yes. Yeah, I think that definitely the animated TV show made you like characters more, so that when you saw them in the prequels, you were like, oh, you have more of a connection to that character.
Exactly.
But I will say, I'm a Jar Jar guy.
Are you? He
gets a lot of hate. I'm a Jar Jar guy, and I'm a Gungan guy. And when they come to Legion, it's going to be great.
Absolutely. We did an episode of Double Critical, and we talked about sub-factions, and I've always pushed for sub-factions. I've been pushing for Gungans for both publicly and privately, like behind the scenes, like, guys, you got to do Gungans. Here's how I think. I've been pushing for them for over a year now, so I'm really hoping that they happen, because Luke and Alex I think Alex actually kind of hinted that Geonosians and Gungans might be something they'd like to do. It kind of made me think, well, sounds good. It sounds like it's a far off thing, but it's on the back burner at least.
I feel like the BX commando droids kind of soft release them, because they have the shields, and I'm like, oh, there they are.
Exactly. I want, and hear me out. Since you do a lot of custom stuff, I'm sure you've thought of this, but and I've said this before, but I want to see Gungans as being a core unit that perhaps does not come with a ranged weapon. Perhaps they're melee and heavily defensive, like maybe red defense die and a surge because of those shields, or maybe shielded 2 or something like that. But then their heavy weapon is like the guy with the slingshot with the boomba, And so you can give them a ranged weapon by default. Maybe they don't come with one. And that's one of the things that gives them their flavor, is that, and that's what like short range units have a problem in Legion right now, is closing the distance. But if they had those shields, they might have a much easier time closing the distance.
I know something I've considered with Gungans is maybe because they have those like stabs that they throw the bombs with. So maybe their grenade range is one further than everybody else's.
That'd be a great keyword, grenade boost. Yeah. Like, I don't even know what you'd call it. Like, what's the ball they throw in the Olympics?
Oh, the shot put, right?
Yeah, shot put proficiency. Or no, that all right. You know what? When I said that out loud, it did not sound good. So somebody will come up with something. But yeah, I could see that. That'd be a really cool keyword ability. Another thing that you had created is the Rancor. Now, this is something I've wanted in Legion for a very long time. Tell us about what you did to come up with a Rancor.
So the Rancor, it's so when people think about these units and they'll look at them and they'll be like, oh, well that'll be easy to kill, or that will be. But you have to remember, you're also fighting somebody else while this massive beast is roaming around the field. So it's like, are you going to waste activations on this 10 health unit, right, or are you going to fight your enemy? Or since it has that hostile keyword where it kind of activates depending on what actions are happening around it, you can almost use it to your advantage to attack your enemy, and it can grab one and gobble them up. So it's more condition stuff that I really would like to see in Legion. It doesn't have to come into the competitive thing, obviously. I don't know if a tournament should be decided if a Rancor ate a Stormtrooper or not. But just, stuff for scenarios. I know we have, the crashed escape pod and everything like that. So I think Rancors and Tusken Raiders and all that stuff, they fit into Legion perfectly in a scenario stance.
That's one of the things, like, because one of the double critical topics we wanted to talk about is creatures. And I've always thought about, like you're saying, like, should a tournament, like, having this huge AI kind of Rancor in the middle of the board, that might not be really fair in a tournament. And so maybe it could have multiple ways of play. Like, it could have its own, just like the way they did with the Crash Escape Pod and R2-D2 and 3PO. Like, you can run that scenario, but also if you want to include it in a list, maybe it comes with a Rancor Keeper, and maybe it's not as, maybe it's a tame Rancor as opposed to a wild Rancor. And so you can run it multiple ways. So maybe there's a way to bring it into a tournament also, because I feel like when they release product that has no tournament value, like nothing that you can actually bring into a tournament, you really reduce the amount of sales they're going to have with it, and that might make it less viable to actually put on the market. So it helps if there's at least something in there. Like, for example, just new objective condition and deployment cards that are tournament legal, right? Like something like that is a great way to say, hey, here's a fun expansion, but there's also just that little bit of flavor that can actually enhance the meta, enhance your tournament game a little bit too.
I guess it would also help if it came with terrain, like knocked over rocks or something, just so people have a little bit of substance into it. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, the extra terrain's always nice. It's just a shame when they go like too expensive, like with that bunker, which is like $80 for nothing. That's going to help you in a tournament, right? And that's why so many people don't get the bunker. And I was really excited about the bunker. I think it's actually a really cool piece, but maybe not an $80 piece, right?
It might be a better 3D print bunker for sure.
Also, the fact that there was already so many bunkers out there. They're like, what's the one thing that everybody already has? Let's make that. Like them coming out with the paint sets and like, oh, come on, guys. You think
it's like them doing Tatooine huts or something right now. It's like, all right, we got them.
Don't, dude. You're gonna jinx it. That's gonna be the next news. We're gonna be waiting 6 months for news, and the next thing is gonna be desert hut. Like. Or an alternate barricade design that's like the same size, but just like the markings are like a slightly different diagonal.
Well, I know they announced, actually, I don't know if it's official or not, but didn't they say Mandalorian content is
They did say the Mandalorian was going to have content. They did
I'm
say that.
I'm thinking Mandalorian is going to bring in the Scum faction or mercenary faction wave. Ooh. And I think your Rancor might fit in there if he's part of like the Jabba Scum faction or...
I think that's a beautiful idea. I'll be honest, since Legion's a war game, like about armies fighting, and it's not skirmish. Like Imperial Assault was more like a smaller battle, so I feel like Scum made more sense because you just might have, and again, I guess it depends on how they do rules for different factions and how if and when they do sub factions, how those are going to specifically and mechanically work out. But I just never viewed Scum and Villainy like they are in X-Wing, as having like a standing united army, right? I could see specific factions that are like Scum and Villainy, so like Crimson Dawn, for specifically just them, because I imagine they have like a militia, or a Hutt cartel, being a specific faction of Scum, but as opposed to just the broad sense of Scum and Villainy, and unless that it's going to be structured that way, that there are specific, the Scum and Villainy comes, but there are only, you must run a sub faction of them.
Right. I mean, and as we've seen from like Clone Wars and Rebels and stuff, Scum factions have actually worked together. So maybe, you can have Jabba the Hutt as a, let's just say, Hutt cartel syndicate, and you can use Jabba the Hutt units as long as you have Jabba the Hutt in your army. And then maybe if you have Maul, he can run Crimson Dawn stuff. And then because you have two commanders of syndicates or factions, then they can, I don't know.
No,
sky's the limit.
I love it. I love a lot of that, but I would also, to be fair, I would also love to see simply characters that are not aligned, not bound to any faction, that could work in any army.
Like Greedo.
Or Hondo Ohnaka.
There we go.
Yeah, I'd absolutely love that. And I'll admit, when they announced Boba Fett for the Empire, the little part of me was just like, oh, come on. No, you did this was the mistake in X-Wing. They made Boba Fett for the Empire in X-Wing First Edition. And then they kind of like, oh, I guess we'll have to make him as a Scum also. And, and they can always do that, but I would love to see.
The great thing with Legion is they could just literally, if they had a Scum card, if it was yellow or something, they could just reprint Boba's card in the yellow, and then bam, there you go. If you already have the Boba card, you're good to go.
Yeah. And maybe that's the thing with Scum. Maybe Scum is the version of non-aligned. Like they can go into, and maybe they have a different point cost. Like if you want to run them in a strictly Scum build, you run them at their point cost. But if you want to run them in another faction, 10-point increase.
Now will they have light side Scum and dark side Scum?
They certainly may.
Because it might be weird to have Jabba the Hutt with the rebels. It might be a little strange.
Or maybe you can, because there are times I think in Clone Wars, Kenobi and Anakin or somebody, or Quinlan Voss or somebody, like they walked into one of the Hutt enclaves, and they had very civil and diplomatic conversation and all of that. So I imagine it's possible, but maybe the point cost is just that much higher. Like there might be specific conversion costs. Like if you're dark side, it's you align easier with separatists or so on and so forth. I don't know. I mean, we can speculate all day.
There's so many ways they could go. So many.
This video could easily be 4 hours long if we were going to do all of that. But yes. All right. So I want to move on a little bit and talk about the First Order, because this is a faction I don't see coming to Legion anytime soon. Even though they are done with Episode 9 right now, and Resistance is done, and in theory, like the First Order story is pretty much wrapped up. I have a feeling we're going to see over the next maybe 5 years or so, we're going to see some more content that's going on during the time of the sequel trilogy, but maybe separate from it, to kind of flush out these factions in the galaxy a little bit more during that timeline, primarily because Disney has Batuu and Galaxy's Edge and this whole theme park. They're going to want to add more stuff to that, and they're going to, that's their bread and butter right now. So I'm sure we're going to see more books, maybe another TV show that takes place there. I think we're going to see more before they start flushing it out. And
I think Mandalorian is going to. It's my prediction that Mandalorian is going to kind of flesh out like the underbelly of the First Order, like how it was starting, because they're going to introduce Ahsoka Tano in the next season, and then I think she's going to get her
still a rumor, but it's probably absolutely so, but it's still technically a rumor. I don't know why they don't just come out and be like, it's for real. Because they're going to make it like this huge announcement when it's like finally confirmed, and everybody's like, why is this news? We've known about this for 6 months.
If they do like a poster with her on it just to get like an image of her, then it would be worth it. It's like, oh, okay, that's what we waited for.
I want to see that so bad. I'm a big fan of Rosario Dawson, by the way, so I'm like, I love just about everything I've seen her in, so I think she's going to do great.
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
All right. So first order, you created, you jumped into sequel factions, and I first saw this show up on Facebook a couple of months ago. And at the same, it's what struck me is how authentic and real they look. Like you've done the box art, and I love that you took a unique take on this. The box art you created for the first order was like a half starter, right? Like this is like you're not. I imagine if if this came out, I'm thinking, oh, this is gonna be maybe a $59 price tag because it's probably gonna be a single faction starter with some dice, or something like that. So I'm like, that's brilliant. And all these cards you came out with, I mean, you've got, tell us about who you put in the first order and what was your kind of design process for this.
Well, all right. So the first order.
I know that's a lot. You can start.
The first order, in my opinion, was like much easier to design than the Resistance, only because the Resistance is kind of like the Rebels in a way. Mm-hmm. So I kind of didn't have a lot of ideas for the Resistance yet. So the first order, I was like, all right, I'll just do a half box. Because maybe with Scum and Villainy coming out, maybe they'll start doing half boxes for factions and stuff like they do in War Machine. So I was like, all right, so let's do it. So who's going to be the commander? And I was like, well, Kylo Ren makes the most sense. But I was like, I don't really want to do like Supreme Leader Kylo Ren first. I want to do Force Awakens Kylo Ren. And Force Awakens Kylo Ren, not really a commander. He's like an operative. He's always kind of by himself. He's doing his own thing.
And
so I was like,
let me interrupt you for just 1 second, because you made a really good point, and I apologize, but hold that thought. Just the same reason I said I don't think they're going to do the sequel factions yet, because that knowledge, what you just said, knowing where the future goes and having it all flushed out that we're going to have, episode 7 Kylo Ren, and episode 8's like the very next day, so I group them together. But then we're going to have episode 9, who is Supreme Leader Kylo Ren. So like, that's why I'm glad they didn't start making this stuff right away. And they did that kind of with X-Wing. They started making the Force Awakens stuff like before the movie even came out, and they painted themselves into so many corners with all of that they ended up releasing like the T-70 X-Wing 3 different times within the first year, because they're like, oh, we didn't. If only we knew then what we knew now. Oh, there's more pilots in the next movie. We've got to add them. And so sit back. That's the reason why like Galactic Civil War content is so flushed out, because we've got 20, 30, 40 years of it being flushed out to look. We know what's the weakest and what's the strongest and everything in between. All right. Back to what you were saying about Kylo Ren. I'm sorry. I love that you had that forethought and that like that in. That's good stuff. All right, sorry.
So, and then the thought is like, well, I could make Kylo Ren an operative expansion. But then it's like, are you really going to buy a core set that doesn't have the lightsaber user like every other core set does? So I was like, all right, you have to have Kylo Ren in it. So who's the commander? Captain Phasma, obviously. So you have Captain Phasma, and there's the commander. You have your operative, and then you have your 2 First Order stormtroopers. So no support as a like standard box sets are now.
So already you have faction identity right there, because that stands apart from everything else.
And then, as a little spoiler, is the Resistance would have Finn, Rey as an operative because it's Force Awakens Rey, and then 2 Resistance troopers. So if you did combine them into a box, you're getting 4 heroes and then 4 troopers. So I feel like that's a buyable box, because it's like, ooh, I'm getting 4 characters in this box rather than just 2 and then some supports. So, but I feel like if they did release, if this was official, which it's not, but if it was, then I would feel like the core sets and the supports would have to release at the same time. So this way you could still buy it and make a viable army.
That's one of the things that I think you've got to do, and I really like the idea of just the standalone kind of the small box, the single faction box, and it's something I wish Fantasy Flight would do with more of their games, and not kind of force people into buying multiple factions with every starter. They did a game, Rune Wars, they had done a couple years ago. And after the starter came out and they announced more factions, they came back and said, release this Essentials kit, which was just a smaller box, like a $15 box or something like that had all the rule book, the dice, the movement templates, all the things you needed to play, except for 0 units. And so then you could buy whatever faction you wanted to play a la carte and just buy the individual things you wanted.
But what a great marketing strategy though, right? So if you and I are friends and I go out and buy the core set, it's like, well, now I have two factions. Hey, do you want to play with this? And it's great.
The
And it's a
numbers
good way to
probably
get
support that. Absolutely.
it's a good way to get multiple people into the game.
And
So.
then or when you come in later and you're like, oh, I just wanted to play Rebels. I just wanted to be Luke Skywalker, and I got these stormtroopers. I got half a unit. I guess I could buy some more stormtrooper. Oh, that ATST is really pretty though. If I buy that, I almost have a full list too. So that and they're making dewbacks. I really like dinosaurs too. All right, and so yeah, and that's
Absolutely.
and I know people who have gotten into that and deliberately who have bought stuff for a faction they don't play because well, I already have most of an army anyway. And yeah, it is effective strategy. I can't.
Now
deny
I
that.
can see if FFG is going to stick to this hard sprue thing, and they're going to re-release like the Rebels and the core set in these hard sprues. Maybe they'll do the half thing then, where it's like, hey, here's the Rebel box because the other box is already out. Who knows?
I would love to see more of that, and it's also a great way to like errata cards too, especially like when they do errata, like re-releasing stuff with the reprinted
Yes.
versions it's just a great. I actually would like to see more card packs too, which hopefully they will continue to do that.
In my opinion, I think if they do a card pack 2, they could put the skirmish cards in there easily.
The skirmish cards would be a great one. All of the errated stuff, and you could even put a couple of other little things in there. Like I would go so far as this. I think if they do another card pack, it'll probably just be cards like the last one. But if they want to jack the price up a little bit more, they could probably get away with putting a little bit of plastic in there, and it could be either some light terrain, or they were. Did you see? I'm assuming you've seen like the Cad Bane and all that other stuff. Spoilers, but they could do a hats expansion, right? And,
I knew where you were going.
Yeah, all right, okay, yeah. But like I'm thinking, and I haven't talked about this. I don't think I've talked about this yet, but I've thought about it. But like I would call the expansion Dusters and Fedoras, right? And it's just like 4 to 12, probably 12 different hats. And you can
Just
put them
for
on.
Cad Bane.
Yeah, and maybe like cloaks and stuff too. And not just for Cad Bane. You can put them on any character you want, right? I was really like, I was gonna do like something like that as like an April Fool's joke, but like I have all these ideas and then they disappear and like I forget about them the next day, and so then they randomly come back, and that's, so whatever. That's why I make videos every day, because like I got so much crap to talk about.
Listen, May 4th, if you want me to post a late April Fool's hat pack, you let me know.
Well, everybody's gonna know about it now, so now it's not gonna fool anybody. But yeah, if you want to work on Dusters and Fedoras, and here's the thing, and you guys in the comments, let us know what you think about Dusters and Fedoras, because I could see you doing the art for this, but we might be able to get somebody from either Skullforge or Mel Miniatures. I'm friends with him. Maybe somebody designs a couple of hats or whatever. We could put the whole pack together. And
There it is.
Maybe make some upgrade cards for hats that really don't do anything. Like give them keywords, right? Like stylish. Exhaust this card if this hat is equipped. Exhaust this card to roll your dice extra good. Like doesn't even mean anything, right?
Luck +5.
Luck. Oh. But then somebody's gonna be like, wait a second, does that stack with Han Solo's uncanny luck?
Oh God.
I'm like, oh no, FAQ. No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. Yeah. Very, very cool. All right. Yeah, so I love the artwork too. I'm looking at Kylo Ren's card right here. Who's and he's like, I can tell you put a lot of work into this. Not just the artistic stuff, but as far as like the balance and everything that goes into these cards too, because he's very similar to like a lot of the Jedi we've seen, or a lot of the Sith, I suppose, but just a little weaker. He's still younger, right? Like he's only got 5 dice. His lightsaber is unstable, so he's only got the 1 red and the 4 black. Like a lot of that makes sense. He doesn't have the offensive surge like Luke has. He's a lot closer to Vader, but also not as expensive as Vader. All right.
There you go.
Yeah. No. Very cool. And he comes with the training slot too, so it's a little different. Yeah. No. Very cool.
I like his Kylo Ren. I was trying to make like a Luke Skywalker, kind of like dark side Luke Skywalker. It's kind of like what I kind of based him off of. So you can kind of see some Luke Skywalker there. But like you said, it's almost like Vader, because that's who he's trying to be. I think it's very important. I think FFG does a fantastic job of being very thematic with Legion. Like they're very thematic in everything they do. So when I make these units, I try to kind of emulate that. I'm trying to like, all right, what would FFG do? That's my like thought process every time. So me and the homebrew community, you know, always just dive in there and we're like, all right, what are we going to thematically do?
I mean, I like that he's got charge and not relentless, but jump, I'm not sure. I'm not sure if like when we do eventually see him, I don't know if he'll have jump. I think that only because, and I'm thinking about, you've probably thought about this more than I have because I'm going off of a lot shorter time frame. I think we don't see him really do any kind of jumps until he's Supreme Leader Kylo Ren.
Right, but
Maybe.
You would imagine, right, that Kylo Ren.
I mean, mechanically, jump is very, very good. But who knows? You know that like, and this is one of the things like maybe this is why FFG doesn't make it right away because maybe we'll learn about new force powers in later seasons of The Mandalorian. Maybe he's got something else that gives him mobility that's different from jump, like maybe teleport or something like that, you know. Because actually, him and Rey kind of could transfer stuff, right? So, yeah, that's not... It wasn't exactly FFG. Teleportation.
Good luck with that stuff, yeah.
Maybe you can trade gear, right? Maybe they come up with some kind of lightsaber upgrade.
Well, the Resistance has Anakin's lightsaber, and you can either equip it to Finn or Rey, because in The Force Awakens they both wielded it. So. And I will thank you for that because I'm a big Finn fan, right? Like when Episode 7 came out, like or when it was coming out, nobody knew that Rey was actually like the chosen one or whatever. We all thought Finn was the star, right? And when he's igniting that thing and he's fighting Kylo Ren, he's like, "Come and take it!" And I was just like, "Yeah!" I was like standing up and cheering, and so like it was a great, And then of course, he got beat up pretty good, and rightfully so. But he fought the good fight. But then you didn't see like Episode 8 came out. I'm like, "Oh, what's Finn gonna do? Is he's gonna get that lightsaber back? Is he gonna be like, hey Rey, you remember when you borrowed my lightsaber that Maz gave me? Can I have it back?" And I'm like, we didn't see any of that. And I'm like, oh, Finn, they made Finn boring. And I wanted Finn to have, with the back injury, I wanted him to have like an Iron Man suit. I wanted some kind of like cyber Finn, like Finn 2.0, arc reactor ignited, something cool, right? So, and then you think all the toys you could sell, So I was really glad in Episode 9 that he at least at one point held that lightsaber again. It was when they were in that cave, right? So yes. I'm trying not to be spoiler. I'm assuming little tease.
It was a little tease.
Not enough, but
it wasn't enough. But I did say I had like a wish list of things that I wanted to see in Episode 9, and Finn holding a lightsaber was one of those things. I think I was actually Finn using a lightsaber, but it was close enough that I was willing to, be favorable and say, okay, you meant that one. So after the First Order, you're working on the Resistance, and I was looking over on your website, cleverclanker.video.blog. You have a lot of this stuff available for, and it's free, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes,
I don't think if you were charging, you'd probably get in trouble. Yeah. But yeah. So I see the Resistance isn't there yet. You're still working on that. What else? What's in the future for the Clever Clanker blog?
So the Resistance is definitely, they're ready to go. Their cards are made. Rey and Finn are ready to go. It's just we want to play test them a little bit more because the Resistance is weak, so like their core unit only has 3 in starting, it's kind of scary because it's like, ooh, that's not a lot. But they kind of hit hard. So they're kind of like glass cannons. And I wanted to make First Order in the opposite of them. Like Empire's very range 4. Like I'm just going to put my gun line.
Unfortunately.
I'm with you. I think in my personal opinion, I think range 4 is strangling Legion. I was like, no range 4. So if you look at any of my First Order units, no range 4. They're in your face. They have melee stuff. They have a riot trooper. They have an executioner trooper. They have a lot of stuff that they can get in your face and beat you up. So that's what the play style with them was. I want to get in your face, which is the complete opposite of the Empire. So we're trying to do that. Me and the homebrew community are trying to do that with Resistance. We kind of want to make them different from the Rebels. And ever since we started seeing these like Echo and Fives. And with the 2, now we can throw Finn can be even in one of them. He could be maybe a 3 health upgrade. And this way you might not be able to use the Finn unit, but you can use him as an upgrade. So that's our thought process.
I want to see a lot more of that in the future as well, because one of the things that I loved about Imperial Assault when I used to play that was you could get like the whole gang in one build, and you have such a hard time trying to do that now. Like since Operative Luke has come out, there now exists like certain possibilities, but you still like if you wanted R2 and 3PO, you're not going to be able to get like Counterpart kind of does that a little bit, but that that unique heavy is a really great way to give a lot more thematic options.
I think that's how, because everybody's asking for, oh, are we going to get generic Jedi? Are we going to? And I think all like Kit Fisto, I think they're all going to be these Jedi upgrades, unless they keep throwing them into vehicles like Plo Koon and Aayla Secura.
Yeah, I love that they put some into vehicles because it's early right now, and like that's the quickest way to get a lot of Jedi out there is just through upgrade cards. But I hope they don't stop there because Plo Koon and Aayla Secura are two of the most popular Jedi. So like Kit Fisto, Mace Windu, Yoda, probably, and of course Anakin. I think Anakin's just a given. He's probably like, and I don't know. I have no idea what's coming specifically because hey, nothing else has been spoiled from Europe yet. But yeah, like I would bet that Anakin's probably absolutely the next Jedi coming. It just makes sense. And I'll give you this one. Here's my prediction that the next Anakin, or sorry, the next Jedi, that when we see Anakin, rather, he'll be Episode 2 Anakin. I think he's going to be younger.
The two lightsabers.
Two lightsabers is fine. I don't mind if they want to do that. I mean, because he only did that for one fight scene, so I don't know if it's as thematic. I think there could be a command card that has him picking up an extra lightsaber.
Yeah,
like
that's cool.
That's what yeah.
Okay.
But yes, so like I see it being like a weaker Anakin who's still strong, but the problem is like I think one thing they did wrong. I don't want to say I'll say it. They did wrong is releasing Palpatine so early, right?
Yeah.
In the life cycle, like he's supposed to be like the ultimate bad, and they released him so early. I'm like, well, who's going to be better than him now? And so like. I don't want to use the word power creep because like Palpatine's still good and everything, but that was the fear at the time. Like, wait, you're releasing like the ultimate unit like in the first year or like in the first 6 months? I think he was announced or something like that. So like I don't think you want to have Episode 3 Anakin.
Right. Same thing with Vader too. I'm surprised. Like obviously, first Vader's a given, but like when they announced Operative Vader, I was a little confused because I was like, all right, this is your chance to give Vader stuff they didn't have, and they did. But like I feel like he doesn't have like a mastery, and neither does Luke. So it's kind of, I don't know. I thought that was a weird choice too.
Yeah, I think there's another reason for that, and I think it was maybe part of the backlash about how they had this Star Wars Celebration exclusive Vader sculpt, and people were mad they couldn't get an alternate Vader, and so like, well, here's a way, let's push this up in the timeline, so this way other people you can get a different Vader sculpt. I wonder if that was some of the motivation. I'm not sure. I really don't know, but I do like what Operative Vader's done, and I think that it's cool that it does show us that we're like multiple versions of characters are totally fair game. Like it answered a lot of those predictive questions, like will they ever do a different version of Obi-Wan Kenobi? Will they ever do Obi-Wan Kenobi for the Rebels? And if so, what will the command cards be worded like? What will the name be? Will we be able to mix command cards across factions? And I think so, because they'll probably call him Ben Kenobi for the Rebels. So this way the command cards will match a different named character. So something like that. I don't know. But I think if they do it Episode 2 Anakin, it gives you room for him to grow. And then they release the Episode 3 Anakin, like the conflicted apprentice, like the version you see in like Star Wars Destiny,
And then will he have two sides? Will he have Anakin Skywalker and Darth Vader? So you can play him on Empire or...
Wow, that would be cool to actually, that's... Wow, that's really...
And they just put them in the same pack,
Well, here's what I think they'll do, because I don't have the answer for that, but I think that is very similar to how you do Sheev, Palpatine, and Darth Sidious, right? And I think one way you could achieve some type of synergy, because a lot of times you want to release something and then have something else that goes in the other faction, is you release a Darth Sidious for the Separatists. Because I mean, really, if you were doing like cloaked incognito Darth Sidious, he really, I kind of belong. He was Dooku's master, so he probably should go in the CIS faction. Maybe certainly doesn't belong in the Republic. Now, Chancellor Palpatine belongs in the Republic, but maybe that's the thing. Maybe it's a double-sided card or something like that, and then you could do the same thing for for Vader, but have him flip over to the Empire, and then
right.
So you'd have some flip flopping in other ways, and you could have a whole flip flop. Like who else? Like I imagine there's probably other characters that you could flip flop from multiple things, like Cham Syndulla,
Iden Verzo.
Iden Versio, yeah. Oh, to the Resistance.
Yeah.
So that would she might get another version later on. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But she'd be Rebel to Resistance.
Yes.
Maybe, yeah. Well, actually, yeah. No, I guess. Or you could do her a lot of different ways. You could do a lot. But I'm thinking like I'm going old. I'm like Clone Wars to Rebel or Clone Wars to Empire. There's a lot of characters from the Clone Wars that diverged paths. Wolf Yularen, good guy in the Clone Wars, bad guy for the Emperor, or for the Empire. So I mean, there's a whole lot of that whole faction switching or a traitor mechanic, and that could work for Finn.
There you go.
You could do an FN 2187 expansion time, perhaps. Hey, just because you got a faction done doesn't mean you can't do expansions.
You're right, absolutely. And we can put it in the hat pack. You can get his stormtrooper helmet with the blood on it. There you go.
That's a great idea. All right, so you did some. We started talking just recently because you did some work for the Legion AI deck that I had put out, and I don't know if everybody's seen these cards, but they are awesome. And you basically took the card design I had, which apparently was not very printer friendly because I put a lot of black on these, and you cleaned them up to make them look like actual FFG command, or like something that you would find in an FFG scenario pack or something like that. So these were absolutely amazing. So I want to thank you for your work here because these look gorgeous, and I have some printed out. Like right here.
Oh, let me see them. Yeah.
Yeah. So they print really good if you go 3x3. Like because I put them all into one PDF. So if you guys go to Crabbok.com, there's custom content and the Legion AI expansion. I've changed the link. I have the original files also available, but I moved them all the way to the bottom of the page. So if you for whatever reason, if you like the old look that was all black and was going to use up all of your printer ink, those are still there. But these are here, and you made a couple of changes too. So like as I look at them, I see like at the top of them, you named each card. So that was kind of interesting. And the name it doesn't really mean anything. It's based off of the command phase, right?
Right. Well, I was also thinking the name because like say you played a lot, and then you draw focus. It's like, oh, well, I already know what focus does. It kind of gives you that connection to the card instead of it just being like you always have to read it. So.
And that's also, I think, thematic, or maybe not thematic, but that's on brand on how other things work. Like if we're playing a condition and we're playing rapid reinforcements, well, we know what that does because we just said rapid reinforcements. So yes, and that's aligning to what Legion does already. In addition to the card number also making it unique. And you also put the free action of kind of reminder text at the very bottom because there was some empty space on the bottom, so that's cool. I like that quite a bit. But the other thing you did is something I hadn't even really thought of doing yet, which makes a lot of sense. Is you made this cover sheet for like a rules reference in the style of like the Legion rules reference, guides, and this is beautiful. Like you did like the R2 thing, and like I love that. I love the work and the professionalism that goes into this. Like, how long did this take you?
Well, let's see. When I messaged you the first card because I was like worried about stepping on your toes because I didn't want you to be like, "Hey, man, why do you think you can make better cards than me?" Like I was.
You can.
So I was just like, "All right, I'll make one and I'll send it to him." I'll be, all right, what does he think? And then you were like, "All right." So it took me the rest of that day. I was kind of like working on it here and there. Once you have the template, it's pretty easy to just kind of plug everything in.
Sure.
Making the rules reference thing is it's just copying what FFG does. You know what I mean? Once you have all the fonts and stuff, you can kind of really get that down. And as long as you have a basic knowledge of Photoshop, it's actually pretty easy.
Yeah, I've definitely done some in Photoshop, but clearly not as much as you have. I tried. So I don't know if you saw this, and you may not have because it was an X-Wing thing, but I did an X-Wing 3rd edition as my April Fool's joke this year because every year for April 1st I do a joke video. So if you're watching, when April 1st comes, I'm probably gonna have some kind of, so don't believe anything that comes out of this channel on April 1st. But what I was gonna do is I was gonna do box art, so I kind of took the X-Wing 2.0 box art and colored it certain things different colors, but I wanted to shape it differently. And like kind of how you like for example what you did with the First Order box, like you drew a whole different thing. But I wanted to make mine triangle shaped, and I was like, that is going to be really interesting because it wouldn't be a straight up triangle. It'd still be like a triangular prism. And I'm like, so how am I going to do this? And I started using like the Microsoft 3D Painter, because you can make 3D objects in there and you can paste a sticker over them. And I'm like, that wasn't working out right because I couldn't get it on there just right. And of course, in my fashion, I came up with this idea like the night before April 1st, and so I'm scrambling, trying to no, I need to spend 3 weeks mastering this software. I'm like, oh, it didn't look good enough, so so it wasn't as convincing. But I guess that's probably a good thing, because if you really told people, hey, imagine somebody coming out, somebody who's reputable, like Fifth Trooper came out and said, guys, breaking news. FFG just announced Legion 2.0. All your existing stuff has to go in the trash. Could you imagine the insanity that would ensue, right? Yes. So it's kind of a good thing that wasn't that believable. So, if I had done something like one of your boxes, everybody would have been completely fooled. They'd be like, oh my God, where do I pre-order right now?
I do kind of feel bad too. So I apologize for anybody that gets really excited that, First Order got announced or Tusken Raiders got announced. Like you said, you got fooled, and I was like, so I don't mean for it to, get people's hopes up and stuff like that. I just want it to be as legit as possible. So
and now these are at least some of them, I don't know if all of them are on Tabletop Simulator as well. Is that true? Or
yes. So luckily the Discord homebrew community is great. So they help make these units, and then the one guy Bounty puts all of these models into Tabletop Simulator. So yes, you can play the First Order and the Resistance on Tabletop Simulator right now. So
awesome.
If you want to go in there, play test them, go for it.
Now, if somebody wants to do that, do they have to download any kind of special files, or is it already kind of baked in to the Legion mod?
I wish. No, so you just have to download the it's called the Legion, Star Wars Legion community content. So if you download that, you open it up, and then there will be a First Order bag sitting there. You just save object, and then you can go over to the Legion Tabletop Simulator and just port it right in.
Excellent. So if anybody's watching and they're looking to do something like that, I would definitely suggest you check out the Legion Discord, and there's certainly links to that in my Discord, because I know I don't put links to everything I talk about in the description below. I put most of them in there, but at a certain point, I'm like, gosh, I talked about 40 different things. Or I don't. So yeah. So if you're already a member of my Discord, I have a community thing. Check out the Legion Discord. If you're already, if you're watching me, you may already be a member of the Legion Discord, because I've been a part of that Discord for a long time. But there's a homebrew section, and I'm sure they'll be able to help you if you have any questions. Also, if you're looking for a game against somebody else who's probably wanting to run one of these factions, that's probably a good place to, I know they have TTS group finders and all of that stuff as well. You probably won't find me there. I have this aversion to Tabletop Simulator. I can't, I start doing it, and and I always hit the flip table button, and it's and then I get distracted. I'm like, oh, that's so much fun. And then I just keep flipping tables over and over again, and I'm like, all right, nobody's going to want to play with me. So that's kind of why I came up with the Legion AI system. I was like, I can't play TTS without flipping the table, so let me what can I do for me that other people might like also? So, all right. So we talked a little bit about the stuff that you've made so far, and your website. And I'm gonna, if you want to check out the Clever Clanker blog, I'm gonna have a link to that in the description below. So make sure you guys check that out. You got anything else coming in the future? Anything else that you want to kind of talk about?
Sure. So another reason that I'm kind of pretty good at Photoshop is because I do have my own board game coming out called Terrain Realm of Warriors. That should be coming to Kickstarter soon. You can actually play that on Tabletop Simulator as well. So if you want to go check that out, that'd be great. So that's the only other thing I'm really working on. So that's why, I've made my own board game. So it kind of helps with making units for Legion because of balancing and all that kind of stuff. So
awesome.
That's it.
Well, when it goes live, definitely shoot me a link, and I will share it out, and hopefully you guys watch for that, and look forward to it. So I definitely do a lot of Kickstarter stuff. So it's a good platform. It's a great way to get something going and to get a lot of exposure too. All right, well, I think that's about all we've got time for today. I want to thank you guys so much for watching, and thank you for hanging out with us. And be sure to check out the Clever Clanker blog, and I almost called it the Uchidan blog. No, but yeah, thank you guys, thank you for so much for all of your work, and for the cards, and I mean they just look so cool. Like it's like. I was kind of speechless when I saw this, and I had other people actually contacting me like, dude, you're getting your cards redone by like the master himself. And I'm like, wait, what's going on? And I'm glad, and thank you for messaging me too, because otherwise I would have thought, I'm like, oh my God, somebody else came up with the same idea I did. Did I rip? And clearly theirs is so much better. So yeah. Now,
well, I also wanted to take the time. I feel like Crabbok, you don't get enough recognition for what you do for the community. I feel like you are a person that people go to watch the videos, and making that AI system, especially in a time like this where a lot of people are stuck inside. They might not have a significant other or a roommate or somebody else to play games with. So being able to play a Legion game by yourself is great. So thank you for that.
Well, thank you, man. I appreciate that. I appreciate that very much. And gosh, with that, I think we're gonna sign off. If you guys are new here, make sure to click that subscribe button and check the links in the description below if you want to find out more information, or you want to find Discord or any of my social media stuff, or gosh, I'm running out of words, so I'm just gonna let that be it. All right, guys, that's all I've got. I want to thank you all so much for watching, and as always, have a great day.